Hey, boys and girls, it's Mr. B. Today we're going to be talking about communication and other ways to send information, sometimes using patterns, but just different ways to communicate with one another. Now, we've been talking about Morse code and binary code and waves, and these are all ways to identify patterns. And in some cases, with Morse code and binary code, it's ways to identify patterns and communicate with each other. So today we're going to look at different ways to communicate or send information, sometimes using patterns, but just different ways other than talking or using those other codes, Morse or binary, to send information. So we're going to look at a couple different ways here. I'm going to watch this video. I'm going to pause it throughout and talk to you guys, but we're going to watch this, and then I got some other things I'm going to talk to you guys about after this video.
Light not only illuminates our world, but since ancient times, people have been using it to send messages to one another. They still use it today. A traffic light has three bright lights on it. The red one tells us to stop. The yellow one tells us to use caution and slow down. And the green light tells us to go.
Okay, so here's one way, right? We have a traffic light. This is something you guys see every day, driving around with mom and dad, grandma and grandpa. While you're in the car, there's ways right here for people to communicate with one another. In fact, traffic lights are one way that we do that, right? The different lights, the different color lights on the traffic light tell people what to do, right? Yellow to slow down, red to stop, and green to go. Now, there's other things that people look at when they drive too, in addition to traffic lights, right? We have signage all over the roads to help us figure out what to do in a certain situation, right? Stop sign. Sometimes they have curvy road signs and just other different ways to communicate information. But this is one that I think is pretty interesting, is a traffic light, right? The different light patterns tell us what to do.
These three lights help cars and people not run into each other on the street. On seashores, people build lighthouses, tall towers with a light on top. That light is used at night or when it's foggy to keep ships from crashing into the shore.
All right, so here's a way that we utilize light patterns to help people communicate with one another. There's a lighthouse, right? And he just said this is how people who are sailors utilize this type of information to help not run aground or run into shore on a foggy day or at night. So it's kind of helps sailors or people out on boats, fishermen and other people out there to know where the land is.
We all have light signals in our homes. Some light signals might tell us if an appliance is turned on. Others can tell us if we have a message waiting to be listened to. Some light indicators can tell us what station we're tuned into. However, light is not the only.
So I thought that was also pretty interesting, is that we have light signals all around us that we kind of don't really think about, right? He showed us like a radio station light indicators that kind of tell us what radio station we're listening to. The different power buttons and light indicators on appliances. I mean, think about your video game consoles, right? There's different light patterns that are communicating to you. They're giving you information as you play your video game, as your console is powering on and powering off. There's different ways that device is communicating to you and sending information to you.
Sound is used to help us as well. If you remember from earlier lessons, sound is a type of energy that is made when objects vibrate. When these vibrations reach our ears, we hear them as noise. A doorbell sound lets us know the guests have arrived. Someone's at the door. Oh, hey, Wally.
Hello.
People learned how to use sound to communicate important information. A cell phone rings to let you know that somebody's calling.
So in addition to light, we also have sound that helps us communicate, right? Like he gave an example of a doorbell. Also, like a phone ringing. Different sound patterns also communicate information to us over time as well.
A school bell calls students to a lesson. A coach's whistle in the gym tells them to start exercising. All emergency service cars have sound alarms: police cars, fire trucks, and ambulances. When these cars race to the rescue, the alarm sound tells other cars to get out of the way. The world around us is full of sounds and light. Listen and look carefully. You might learn something interesting. That's it for this time. We'll see.
Okay. I wanted to add a few that I thought were interesting too. Um, Back when we didn't have cell phones or telephones, even Morse code or binary code, things like that, we had Native Americans used smoke signals, right? So they would light a fire and they would put a blanket or a cloth over the smoke that the fire was generating, and they would kind of rotate on and off the fire, on and off the fire to generate these puffs of smoke. So over long distances, maybe another person in their tribe a few miles away would see these puffs of smoke and interpret them as some form of information. They were giving that person information. Hey, there's animals to hunt over here, or hey, we're being attacked over here. They would use the smoke from the fire to communicate that information to people over long distances, which I think is pretty neat because it's almost like Morse code, right? So they would use these different patterns in the smoke to communicate. In addition to these smoke signals, sailors also communicate with each other using a variety of flags, which I thought was pretty cool. So all these flags have different meanings, and and depending on how you put them in order, it could mean a different thing. A different message could be communicated. So what I need you guys to do now is go into Google Classroom, and there's a pretty cool exit slip question that I want you guys to try to answer in Google Classroom. I think you guys will enjoy coming up with your own way to communicate information. All right. I hope you guys have a great rest of the day, and we will see you later.